Welcome to Autism Knows No Borders, a podcast where people connected to autism inspire change and build community. Together with the Global Autism Project, I'm your host, Rachel Harmon, a professional with over a decade of experience in the field of autism services, outreach, and advocacy. Have people ever based their perception of you solely on your deficits? Are your strengths and abilities sometimes overlooked because of your differences? If so, stay with me for this episode, where Brian Middleton talks about how the biopsychosocial model of disability shifts perspectives from a purely medical approach to a more comprehensive one. Brian Middleton is an autistic self-advocate, a board-certified behavior analyst, and the creator of The Bearded Behaviorist, an initiative dedicated to the dissemination of behavior science and the inclusion of trauma-informed care standards in applied behavior analysis and other human services. This conversation was part of a special event which we hosted for a community of SkillCorps volunteers. Other participants include Danielle Terrell, Hannan-Bruecken, Shannon Haynes, Marianne Spiotta, Hailee Perez, and Christina Cairoli. In this conversation, among other things, we discuss how Brian attempts to build bridges across both sides of the ABA divide, the biopsychosocial model of disability, why pathologizing autism can be harmful, person-first versus identity-first language, transforming the puzzle piece symbol, and how radical behaviorism wasn't originally developed to fix autistic people. In this episode, discover what's possible when disability is viewed as a whole. And now I present you Brian Middleton.
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm a human. I'm a human who experiences the autistic ADHD neurotype. I'm also dyslexic dysgraphic, which apparently has a lot to do with visual spatial memory, and it makes a lot of sense learning about that when I did that because I'm very skilled at visual spatial. I'm clumsy, but I'm skilled at it. It's weird, but I'm a former special education teacher, former with a big old caveat there because I don't feel like I ever stopped being a teacher. I love teaching. I love learning. Learning is such a critical thing. And I'm also a working behavior analyst who recently I'm moving into a clinical director role, which is a plus and a minus in some ways. In some ways, it's a plus because I get to help shape the environment that I want to be in. The minus is that there's more stress. There's definitely a lot of worry, and there's a little bit less opportunities for being direct with the kids, which is the reason why I do what I do. But at the same time, mixed bag, right? Sometimes we got to learn how to navigate where we're navigating and do the best we can. You may have known or heard of me as the Bearded Behaviorist, which is absolutely hilarious that this thing has, in my opinion, has turned into what it has turned into, because it started as a joke. It was kind of an FU joke to a jerk professor who, when I was going through my postmaster's certificate, he gave me and my peers the extra credit assignment to analyze the class and give feedback on how to improve. And I took him literal, and I did it. And it was a postmaster's certificate. So I have a master's degree in education with a endorsement in administrative skills. And so I have a little OBM. Pedagogy is my thing. If you don't know what pedagogy is, that's the study of teaching. It was something that people kept on saying. I'm like, what is this? No one's describing it. So anyways, but it's the study of teaching. And so I took them at face value. I have a master's program that was a hybrid online in-person program. And I went through and I broke down some areas that I thought could be improved. And I offered feedback. I even went so far as to say, I understand why these things were selected for, why they're used. Here's some alternatives. If you're interested in using them, take it or leave it. I really appreciate the class. Thank you for the opportunity to learn. And the professor's response was to take down my post in the group discussion board, not give me credit for the assignment, and send me a very long email telling me I was using problem-oriented thinking instead of solutions-oriented thinking. every single problem I pointed out, I offered at least two possible solutions. So the data didn't support that. So I also, because of my very long history with this sort of thing, had my best friend and wife look over my response before posting it to make sure that my tone wasn't coming off as anything other than like, thank you. This is a great opportunity to practice our skills. The feedback I gave, in essence, boiled down to why aren't we using behavior analysis to teach behavior analysis if this is the science of learning? So that happened October 2018. As punishment will do, I ruminated on it. I had some emotional responses to it. And in December 2018, because I'm a very punny person, I thought of a very punny, quippy referencing one of my favorite things, which is collecting old sayings, referencing an old saying, to beard the lion in its den, which means to address a problem directly or head on. And I launched the bearded behaviors. The very first logo was like not good. It was hand drawn by me. And I showed my best friend and business partner, Bob, and he said, let me fix this for you. And he threw together the logo you see today. And I just wanted to teach behavior analysis through fun, making the stimulus salient, making it engaging. And since then, because like I got a lot of visibility, I got a lot of pushback from the autism community. There were people that initially were incredibly critical of me. I'm on a don't listen to or watch list within certain communities. Like very specifically, I'm named as that. So at least one that I'm aware of. There's probably more. But the flip side is that through this process of having this engagement, there were some people that I was engaging with where we clashed, we butt heads, but there was some genuine desire to learn in both directions. And so now I am privileged to be able to say that Tara Vance is a friend. And I don't mean like kind of a friend. I mean, she is a friend. She has my back. And this is a person who a lot of people would say is anti-ABA. And my response is, well, depends on what you mean. But she has trusted me enough to ask me to come in and support on two different IEPs where she was acting as a consultant so I could provide the behavior analytic perspective. And I think that's a lot of trust. And there's some other people also, like Oswin Latimer. Faye and I were not friends for a very long time. We were I at all. But now I look at Oswin Latimer as a friend. Jeff Newman, our first interaction, he called me a token. Now I know Jeff has got my back. Now I'm going to give him as much crap as he gives me, but he's got my back and I got his back. And this gap bridging happened because both sides were willing to question our assumptions and learn. So that's a little bit about me. I know I went a little bit deeper into it, Rachel. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, that's a great, gives you context to who you are and that you have a way of approaching people and very controversial topics in a way that doesn't make other people wrong. And so thank you for being that bridge builder.
Some people would disagree, but okay. but yeah, I try to see the other person's humanity even as I challenge the behavior.
Right. Okay, well, we're here today to talk about some very specific topics: the different models of disability, the double empathy problem, and neurodiversity affirming practices. So let's start actually with the different models of disability. So Brian, if you could give us the medical model and the social and your version of the social.
Okay. I'm going to take a little liberty here and do social but the medical model for disability is basically looking at disability from the perspective of treatment of problems and resolution of problems. Let's start out with the benefits of the medical model, because I like to look at it from a balanced perspective. Some people are like, medical model evil. No. Medical model does well at identifying and addressing problems. So, for example, if we're talking about heart disease, it's good at identifying what are factors that are wrong with heart disease. Same thing for cancer, same thing for example, diabetes and other medical conditions. The area that the medical model struggles with is being human, the humanistic side. The medical model, because of the way that the pathology paradigm is structured, tends to dehumanize. And even inside the medical community, this is a problem, even though they're treating disease and real disease. And so the medical model, because it focuses on pathologization, creates as many problems as it solves. So the medical model itself is not the problem. It's the medical model for disability. And the medical model for disability views disability as being something that is inherent within the individual. It's something that's wrong with that person. If I were to use this lovely little STEM toy that's sitting at the desk I'm at as an example of this, if this is a person, the disability resides inside of them and we need to fix it. Okay. Now enter the social model. The social model and the human rights model and the biopsychosocial model, which of the three I prefer the biopsychosocial because it's the most robust, but each of them has their benefits. It's just biopsychosocial seems to be the one that incorporates most from human rights and social. So though each of those models perceives disability not as residing within the person, but rather an interaction between the in-person and the environment. So using the camera as an example, if I take this individual and I place them upon this surface, they are not disabled. The disability does not exist. Well, what happens if the individual is interacting with an environment that prevents them from being able to operate, that impedes them? This is disability right here, this interaction. Even if I were to balance it, and some people are able to balance, if I move this just enough, we're going to see wobble and we're going to see impediment going on here, a disability that's occurring. And of course, it's not a perfect example because I could have bumpy surfaces and all sorts of things like that. But I think the physical example helps people to understand what we're looking at. Disability is not something that's internal to the person, typically. That's why the biopsychosocial model is preferred, because sometimes there is something internal to the person that's impacting them, and it's an interaction between the individual and the environment. So it's a combination. And so the biopsychosocial model is perhaps more robust because it allows for that, and it's not too rigid. Whereas sometimes the social model approach is no, it's not internal, it's all external. And I'm like, come on, there's going to be situations where we need to take this approach where it's a balance. There's nuance to things. When somebody is experiencing schizophrenia, medication does help them because it's how their axons and their neurons interact. And medication is beneficial. But to pathologize the person, it's not going to be beneficial. It's still going to harm them, even if we're providing them with medication. So biopsychosocial model, by far preferred. And it all goes back to that pathology paradigm when we're perceiving people and behavior. That pathology paradigm is so critical. Like, I've only learned about the pathology paradigm last year. Before, I didn't have the words for it, but then I learned from Dr. Nick Walker and her book, Neuroqueer Heresies. And by the way, Nick Walker does not like behavior analysts. She outright has stated that she does not support behavior analysis, applied behavior analysis, any way, shape, or form. I can still learn from her. If I ever get an opportunity to talk to her, hopefully she won't yell at me. But at the same time, we can still learn from each other. That pathology paradigm is so critical to understand, because if we move away from this paradigm of there's something wrong with the person, we need to pathologize this person and this person's behavior. And instead, we move back to the roots of behavior analysis, because I would argue that applied behavior analysis is not a clinical science so much as this being a scientist teacher. If you look at the roots of behavior analysis, you look at Skinner, you look at Montrose Wolf, you look at all these people who are early behavior analysts whose names I'm blanking on because I haven't been repeating them. Sorry. Standard Acceleration Society. I can't.
Ogden Lindsley.
Ogden Lindsley. Thank you so much.
You're
Ogden
so
Lindsley is a
welcome.
perfect. I love the help. Yeah, Ogden Lindsley. It's so Firster. So many of them. Even the early research in autism wasn't we're fixing. It was how does this person learn? It's the science of learning. And the pathology paradigm is not compatible with radical behaviorism or functional contextualism. It's not. And understanding these models for disability and how this impacts how we perceive people matters, because here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to draw the connection, because for the longest time it didn't feel right and I didn't know how to explain it. I'm going to draw the connection between person first language and the pathology paradigm and the puzzle piece. Person with autism. It's something that resides with them that we need to fix. Autistic. It's a unique characteristic that makes them who they are. Puzzle piece. Fit in. You need to fit in. You need to suppress aspects of yourself that are natural and essential for your living. Now, does that mean that we don't have rules? No. Does that mean that like people can do whatever the hell they want whenever they want to do it? No. This is being social. This is being a social creatures. It's learning how to interact with each other. And so if somebody is autistic and they're doing something that's hurting somebody else, that's not an excuse for hurting somebody else. And how do we meet them where they're at and teach them where they're at? I'm here now. I'm able to be this verbose, eloquent speaker because despite the many struggles that I faced, I was privileged enough to be able to access resources that did more meeting me where I was at than not. If I had gone to public school as a kid, my first day of public school was my first day of teaching. If I had gone to public school as a kid, I'm pretty sure that I would have been eaten alive. As it was, I stood on the edge of the abyss at least twice as a child, where I almost took my own life. And the only reason I didn't is because of my dogs, because they showed up at exactly the right time. And the pathology paradigm isolates, it dehumanizes. And so for those who are listening here now on the live, and for anybody who's listening in the recording, when I hear somebody say person with autism, I do not immediately try to correct them. I want to point that out because we're people, we meet people where they're at. I look for the opportunity to teach. If I see somebody wearing a puzzle piece, I don't get mad. I see the intention behind what they're doing, and I look for opportunities to teach. And when we find those opportunities to teach and invite, really great things happen. And I've had at least 6 people come to me being like, I have a puzzle piece tattoo. Should I get it removed? And my response is, no. Can I make a suggestion? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Instead of removing it or covering it up, make sure the puzzle piece remains visible, but to put an infinity sign over the top of it to show that you grew. Because behavior analysis is the nerdiest way of being compassionate ever. We can grow, we can learn. We just got to make sure that the growth and learning is beneficial both for ourselves and our community. That's social validity. Social validity takes into account the individual and their community.
Hello, Rachel here. Would you like to share your own perspectives by participating in roundtable discussions with others connected to autism? Join our online Global Autism community, a safe and judgment-free space where all kinds of people connected to autism regularly discuss important topics like autistic identity, dating on the spectrum, coping strategies, and many, many more. We'd love to see you over at community.globalautismproject.org. And now, back to the conversation. I just want to pause for just a minute and see if anyone has any questions or comments related to these different models. Shannon, go ahead.
Hi. This is kind of a question maybe for the group. Brian, you mentioned that you didn't learn about a lot of this to the pathology paradigm for the last couple of years. I think I know most of the people in this call, and most of us are BCBAs. I'm from Canada, and I was lucky that one of our main training programs here, master's programs, is actually a Master's of Applied Disability Studies. So we actually learn all of this in our program. So I guess my question is for other people who are BCBAs, was this something that was taught in your master's programs, these models of disability and understanding? And then how do we think that this should be integrated into training for behavior analysts?
Great question. So just for the listeners, people were shaking their heads no.
We were shaking
Yeah,
our
and that's
heads.
something I feel
Definitely
like,
not.
yeah, I feel so lucky, and I didn't realize how unusual it was until I traveled with some of these people here and started talking to people about their experiences. So I'm very grateful for that perspective. While I learned behavior analysis, I also learned the anti-ABA alongside of it at school.
And I think that's really critical because we miss an opportunity. We get so stuck within our paradigm that we miss the opportunity to see that there's more than one way of looking at it. And paradigm shifts are so essential. For those who don't know, a paradigm is a core set of beliefs and ideas that inform practice and approaches. An example would be Earth-centric paradigm or Terra-centric paradigm, which is the idea that the Earth was at the center of the universe. And then as soon as the heliocentric paradigm was introduced, everything changed. But prior to that, all the mathematicians, all the astronomers, all of the scientists, they were doing research that was proving that the Earth was at the center of the universe. But as soon as that heliocentric paradigm, Earth is a heavenly body that circles a larger heavenly body, and the other bodies that we see spinning around us are also spinning. And the universe is actually itself spinning, like the galaxy, the universe. Oh, wow, our solar system, like that entire paradigm shift opened up new possibilities. Could the Terra-centric paradigm be proven with the research that was done? Yeah, there were plenty of evidences that were presented. The problem is that those evidences were also explained from a different perspective, the heliocentric. And as soon as that was introduced, we saw some amazing leaps in science. Well, the same thing goes for our science, behavior science, which behavior science is not exclusionary of other disciplines. Radical behaviorism is one behavior science amongst many. Now, are there some behavior disciplines that are perhaps a little bit more, to use the term that we behavior analysts like to throw around, mentalistic? Yeah, and we are too. Behavior analysts are incredibly mentalistic. To paraphrase Stephen Hayes, you want to watch a behavior analyst become mentalistic, just ask them why other fields don't like us. I hope that answers your question a little bit, or at least adds to it.
Christina, go ahead.
You're just speaking my language, my friend. I'm here for all of it. To what Shannon mentioned, yeah, so a lot of us were shaking our head. My background originally was in special education, mathematics, and through high school, early intervention, all that good stuff. Then I stumbled upon ABA again. I had it because I was in inclusion classes and et cetera, et cetera. And I like taking what works from all of my different learning experiences and my history and using that rather than being stuck in one way of thinking. And every time someone asks me what I do, I don't naturally want to say behavior analyst because it's got that connotation, gives you that cringe, the ick, whatever everyone's saying nowadays. And it never really felt like my skin, if that makes sense. It's just not it. So precision teaching, Ogden Lindsley, that's something I'm extremely passionate about. And I dabble in for over 10 years now. And, people took behavior analysis and they went one way. They followed it and then they became like this cult following. And this is what it is. And everyone else is, it's like, no, we're learning. We're humans. It's behavioral scientists, right? We want to be proven wrong because that's what scientists do. Because if this is what is, then we're done. We're no longer growing. We're no longer learning. We're not evolving. I want people to be head, shoulders, knees, and toes above what I'm able to come and bring to the table. Because otherwise, what is there? And if we're not learning from our experiences, what are we doing?
So you're touching on something that's really important, which is the need for us to stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yes, preach, always.
Right? That's a paraphrase of Winston Churchill. But like, to stand on the shoulders of giants, yes, we stand on their shoulders. We're advancing, we're learning, we're growing. Like, one day, every single person present here is going to be dead. And this permanent product will exist and someone will be able to review it, hopefully later than sooner. And whatever your beliefs about that is, you're not going to be present. Okay. And the question is, will you be a giant that somebody else will stand on the shoulders of? That's what I want to be. I want to be remembered for my horrendous puns and advancing the world and making it better.
Love it. Fabulous things. I'm puns. Unfortunately, my husband put those on Extinction Burst, man. But they're coming back. Okay, so we'll have to.
Well, we can pontificate together. It's all good.
Oh, I can't wait to enter the Pundern Dome with you. Okay.
I think the puns are amazing. Keep the puns coming.
Always.
Will do. But the question I like to ask people is, and I like to ask these questions because I like taking ideas that people assume, paradigm shift. That's why puns are so much fun for me. I like to take the assumptions that we have and I like to twist them to get people to think, to get me to think, because I think this way. I ask myself these questions. And so my question is, are you selfish enough to make the world better? Because I'm selfish enough to want my world to be better. I want it to be better for me. I want it to be better for others. Are you selfish enough? Let's make this world better. And world better includes being willing to change our own views, to change our own behavior, to realize that there's more than one way of looking at things. To paraphrase Sun Michaud, who was sharing what his elders taught him, oftentimes when we're arguing truth, we're actually arguing perspective. To add to that, and the truth can be found inside the perspective if we're willing to look for it. The truth is that there are more than 100,000 BCBAs out there who are working their butts off and are exhausted and burnt out. And they're operating inside of systems that are coercive themselves, and they're struggling. The truth is that there's millions of teachers around the world and millions of parents around the world who are also struggling. The truth is that there's also millions of children who are isolated and struggling because they've been pathologized. Every single person in this system who is struggling, who is suffering and struggling because of this paradigm. I don't want the teacher to think I'm going against them. I don't want the behavior analyst to think I'm going against them. I'm here to look at the behavior, the beliefs that impact our behavior, and to invite and sometimes even outright challenge that we can do better. And part of doing better is how we describe. Skinner very clearly made a very powerful case for the way we describe things determines what we see. That's the reason why behavior analytic language is so odd, is because he was trying to introduce a new way of looking at things. He's not wrong.
Thanks for tuning in to Autism Knows No Borders. Are you a self-advocate willing to share your story and educate others? Or a professional seeking to hear directly from autistic voices and improve your practice? Or are you a family member hoping to support and empower your loved one? Whatever your connection to autism is, we'd love to hear your takeaways from this episode in our online Global Autism community, where hundreds of people from all over the world connect to support each other and know that they're not alone. Join us today at community.globalautismproject.org. Let's work together to transform how the world relates to autism. Thanks for listening. Take care.